Imagine sitting across from a colleague at lunch, someone you've worked with for years, yet you realize you know nothing about their weekends, family, or even favorite hobbies. They deflect every personal question with a polite smile and change the subject seamlessly. This video explores the subtle psychological mechanisms that make some people masters of mystery, revealing why they keep their inner worlds locked away and how it shapes their interactions without ever seeming distant or rude. To understand these enigmatic individuals, let's first look at the neurological and cognitive processes at play in their minds. In the brains of people who no one really knows, there's often a heightened activity in regions like the prefrontal cortex, which governs self-control and decision-making, allowing them to curate what they reveal with precision. This isn't about secrecy for its own sake, but a wired preference for privacy that stems from evolutionary adaptations for self-protection, where vulnerability feels like a risk. Neurotransmitters like serotonin play a role in maintaining emotional equilibrium, preventing oversharing that could disrupt their inner balance. This foundational brain setup leads directly into their use of selective disclosure as a core strategy. Selective disclosure marks the way these individuals manage their personal information. It is the intentional choice to share only minimal, surface-level information while withholding deeper personal details. Psychologically, it arises from a need to maintain control over one's narrative, often rooted in past experiences where openness led to judgment or exploitation, activating the brain's threat detection systems like the amygdala to prioritize safety over connection. And this creates a persistent sense of guardedness that feels essential for emotional stability. At a neighborhood barbecue in suburban Chicago, they might chat about the weather or local sports teams, but steer clear of mentioning their recent divorce, instead asking others about their own lives to keep the focus diverted. This control over information flow naturally ties into their tendency toward emotional compartmentalization, which further shields their inner experiences. Emotional compartmentalization defines how they handle their inner feelings. It involves separating feelings into distinct mental boxes, dealing with them privately rather than integrating them into social interactions. It stems from cognitive dissonance avoidance, where the brain's executive functions in the frontal lobe help suppress emotions that could complicate relationships, often learned from environments emphasizing self-reliance over emotional expression. And this process feels like a necessary partition, keeping turmoil contained without spilling into daily exchanges. During a team meeting at a New York office, they receive upsetting news via text about a family health issue, but continue presenting ideas calmly, processing the emotion alone later during their evening jog in Central Park. Building on this internal separation, their high need for autonomy reinforces why they prefer to handle life's challenges solo. A high need for autonomy drives their independent approach to life. It is a strong preference for independence, where self-sufficiency trumps reliance on others for support or validation. Rooted in self-determination theory, it fulfills intrinsic motivations for competence and autonomy, with the brain's reward centers releasing dopamine when they solve problems independently, avoiding the vulnerability of interdependence, and this generates a deep sense of fulfillment from self-reliance, even as it isolates them from collaborative comfort. When facing a car breakdown on a Texas highway, they call a tow truck and handle repairs themselves rather than texting friends for advice, viewing it as an opportunity to learn rather than a moment to connect. This autonomy often pairs with vigilant trust building, explaining their slow pace in letting others in. Vigilant trust building shapes their relational caution. It is a cautious approach to forming trust, requiring extensive time and evidence before revealing personal layers. Psychologically, it's a defense mechanism from attachment theory, where avoidant styles developed from inconsistent caregiving lead the brain to scan for reliability cues, minimizing betrayal risks, and this vigilance feels like a protective filter, ensuring connections form only when safety is assured. In a Seattle book club, they attend monthly for over a year, sharing opinions on plots but never personal anecdotes, only gradually opening up after observing consistent kindness from the group. Such vigilance extends to their use of intellectualization as a way to engage without emotional exposure. Intellectualization guides their conversational style. It is focusing on facts, logic, and abstract ideas rather than emotions in conversations. As a Freudian defense mechanism, it allows the rational brain regions to dominate, distancing from effective responses that feel overwhelming or unnecessary, often honed in intellectually stimulating upbringings. And this detachment creates a sense of clarity amid potential emotional chaos. At a family reunion in Florida, when asked about their job satisfaction, they discuss industry trends and market data instead of admitting burnout, keeping the dialogue informative yet impersonal. This rational focus complements their preference for solitude, where true self-expression occurs unchecked. A preference for solitude anchors their recharge habits. It is an inclination toward alone time for recharge and reflection, viewing it as essential rather than optional, grounded in introversion traits from personality psychology, where lower dopamine sensitivity means social stimulation overwhelms, prompting the brain to seek low arousal states for homeostasis. And this solitude feels restorative, like a quiet reset that sustains their equilibrium. On a quiet weekend in Boston, they opt for a solo hike in the nearby woods over joining friends for brunch, using the time to journal thoughts they'd never voice aloud. Ultimately, this solitude supports a mystique that serves as an unintended social strategy. Mystique as a social strategy enhances their interpersonal allure. It is cultivating an air of intrigue through minimal revelation, drawing others in without full disclosure. Evolutionarily, it leverages social curiosity, with the brain's novelty-seeking pathways making partial information more engaging than full transparency, often subconsciously employed to maintain interest on their terms. And this intrigue feels empowering, turning limited sharing into a subtle draw. In a Los Angeles networking event, they hint at a past adventure in vague terms, sparking questions that they answer evasively, keeping attendees captivated and returning for more interactions. Selective disclosure and compartmentalization help them control vulnerability while navigating daily interactions. Autonomy and vigilant trust protect their independence, fostering resilience and solitude. Intellectualization and mystique allow engagement on intellectual terms, preserving emotional privacy. Overall, these mechanisms create a balanced inner world, where mystery isn't evasion but self-preservation. People who no one really knows aren't hiding. They're simply curating a life where depth unfolds on their own timeline, turning privacy into a quiet strength. If this resonates with someone in your life, consider sharing the video or subscribing for more insights into human behavior. Thanks for watching. Until next time, reflect on the unseen layers and those around you.